to be here. Copenhagen, wonderful Copenhagen. So I'm going to be talking about a few mental leaps, to get more, faster, happier, more innovative, better in a general sense. And it's based on a large-scale transformation journey, lean, agile, DevOps, all the buzzwords you like. And I will use Lego since we are in Denmark. So, mental leaps, 3 mental leaps: methods and tools, principles and mindset, resource efficiency to flow efficiency, and scattered experiences to continuous innovation. These are the mental leaps, and by all means, some of those leaps are not yet completed. We're sort of in mid-flight, but still, I think it's worthwhile to share our experiences and learnings. So, my name is Erik Schön. I'm a flow fan, and what does that mean? Well, I'm a fan of flow. I'm a fan of all our amazing teams and people, and then if you look it up on Google picture search, you will find one of those big flow fans. They do actually exist, and that's a big fan to secure the flow. So I have some experiences in NetEnt, the online gaming business. Ericsson, big telco, that's the journey I will be talking about. And then FramFab, maybe some people here who remembers FramFab? Good. Yeah, they had a great office here in Copenhagen. They had offices in Malmö and in Lund. It was founded by a guy from Lund. So that was a fantastic company, going from 3 people to 3,000 people in 3 years, but then everything crashed, as some of you may remember. That was a fun experience. And you may have noticed I'm somewhat of a Lego nerd. So, there will be some Legos. And I'm not paid by Lego, and I have some disclaimers here, trademark of the Lego group, and, they don't sponsor or endorse or anything. But they are okay with people using Lego figures because, that's commercial for Lego. But I'm not paid. So the context, global telecom, Ericsson, the 3 sausages. So we're talking about one part of Ericsson. And remember, Ericsson's a big company. There are a lot of small islands, and this was like a paradise island that we sort of built during a number of years. So 1,800 people, 100 teams roughly, 10 sites, Sweden, Poland, China. So we have all the kind of scaling things. And the product, well, some 10 million lines of code, real-time, embedded, 15 years legacy, 5, 6 nines uptime, so it's pretty cool stuff. So that's the context, just so you know. Why change? I think Anders talked about this morning, that we know why we should change, right? But still it doesn't happen. So this will be part of my talk and what we can do about it, because it's about speaking about the why. It's about do storytelling around the why, and visualizing around the why. But it's always good to start with why change, or why starting to improve, and find that for you, for your company. And for us, this is the why. What is this? Anyone knows? Yes, please. Sorry? Yeah, well, not really. Rome, that's a hint. Any Catholics in the room? Yes, it's the election of the Pope in 2005. And there's a lot of people, they're really eager to hear who's going to be the new Pope in 2005. Fast forward, 2013. Spot the difference? So, next question. What happened between 2005 and 2013? The iPhone, yes. That was good for all the telecom vendors because that created a lot of data traffic in our networks. Super happy, especially if you get paid for the amount of traffic or the bandwidth use. On the other hand, the traffic is growing so fast, doubling every 18 months. That's faster than Moore's law. So we have to be smarter than Moore's law and apply all kinds of cool algorithms and software, really, to handle this massive traffic growth that was created by smartphones beginning with the iPhone. That was one why. The second why for us was we were working with the 2G and 3G technologies that had passed the zenith of the in the product life cycle. So we wouldn't get, exponential Moore law type of money rather than, keep it flat. So then that was a reason to sort of change our ways of working and do things radically different in order to, still deliver and handle all that traffic. Yes. So let's move into the first leap, methods and tools to principles and mindset. And this is really important because if you do get the principles and mindset, you can sort of tune and tweak whatever methods and whatever tools that you need to do the job. And that was not really the case for us in the beginning, which is fine. But at some point in time, we sort of realized this and made this leap. So talking a bit more about this, having Scrum or Kanban or continuous integration as a starting point and sort of learning how to do these things, that was really, really good for us. We did it by the book, and we had some internal coaches and external coaches. And we had another part of Ericsson in Finland who were sort of internal coaches for us. That was really, really good as well. And we asked them, okay, what should we do? And they said, you should focus on 3 things: continuous integration, and continuous integration. And why did they say that? Well, they know that we had almost nothing automated at the time when we started. So we were doing 6 to 9 months hardening, integration tests, system tests, performance tests, all the things to get to those 6 nines. And we had almost nothing automated. So we were in deep shit, pardon my French, when we started. But then, thanks to our initial focus on, the direction, the needs, and the why, having some inspiration from thought leaders, Don Reiners and Mary Poppendick, and bilateral collaboration. I mean, we've been doing cool stuff with Spotify and with Scania, where it was a mutual knowledge exchange in different areas. We learned from them, they learned from us. So that's something I can really recommend if you haven't tried it already. So you can have those kind of bilateral exchanges. And of course, in Ericsson, we always were proud of thinking for ourselves. That's sometimes not good, because you might get into those not invented here kind of things. But in this case, it's really good because we wanted to make this our own thing. We didn't want to copy a framework or something. So we wanted to sort of think for ourselves. And that helped us to get to sort of the other side of the picture here, where we talk about the importance of flow, of value. We talked about the importance of visualization, showing what we do, and having very much transparency into those things. And of course, continuous learning, continuous experimentation, continuous innovation. So this is sort of what the first leap is all about. And I'll give you some examples, some more concrete things, what we did. So principles and mindset, pointing to the destination. Where are we heading? Where are we going? And why are we going there? What are the needs underlying this? That's one very important principle or a mindset. So what we did, and you may want to try this if you haven't done it already. So if we have clear needs, and a set of long-term balanced KPIs, key performance indicators, these were a 5-year thing for us. So we said a few years back that we want to have 4 times more value in order to exceed our customers' expectations. We want to have twice the speed, to market, to be more responsive, and 10 times better quality, and a lot of happiness and engagement and motivations along the staff. And this was a balanced set, so we didn't sub-optimize on any of those. And it was a long-term thing, 5 years, so that we didn't need to have this quarterly rush to fulfill it. And to put those twice, 4 times, 10 times, that also helped us to realize that we couldn't just continue doing what we already had done for 30 years, optimizing the waterfall ever since it was invented in Ericsson by Ivar Jakobsson in 1968. So it was road's end. We needed to do something radically different. And this is also the explanation of the subtitle of the talk, more, faster, better, happier, and more innovative. Because we reached those targets after 5 years, and more. So it can be done. And it's sometimes in the agile community, you shouldn't use metrics because, some command and control managers have been hitting people with metrics on their heads, and that's not good, of course. Whereas in the lean community and in the DevOps community, you use metrics to learn and improve, which is extremely important. Another principle in mindset, large batches, big companies, economies of scale, that's what we've been taught from very early on in our corporate careers. That's not always good. In fact, it's really bad. It's much better to go with small batches, because then you have quick learnings, quick feedback, and that helps you improve much quicker. So this is super important, and this will give you the feedback loops and the flow that you want in order to deliver faster with quality. And you can do the adjustments as needed. So this also goes for the sort of transformation journey in itself. You can do your improvements not as a big bang command and control change effort, but rather do small experiments in ways of working, small experiments with the tooling, small experiments with leadership. So you sort of do your improvements and change activities on a small scale and avoid those big bang initiatives from the top. And you invite people and teams to try things. You don't push it or enforce it. You try to inspire by inviting Visual sessions on mob programming, and then the teams that want to try, they try, and then they spread it to other teams, for instance, just as an example. Okay, next principle of mindset. So, playing football, Denmark is quite strong in football. The Danish national team is really, really good. They would never play like this, right? This is how Swedes play football on Midsummer's Eve. And sometimes I've heard that they sometimes drink vodka, making it even more fun. And this is not a good way of playing football. The Danish team would never play like this. The Danish national team, they look at the ball, they collaborate, they pass the ball, and they go with speed, right? And that's the way to win championships, like in 1992. I very much remember that. Sweden never won a big championship. Denmark did, because of this. So you see the whole field and you work together to win, right? So an example of this is a big room where you have a big board, a physical board, showing your progress. You have your requirement areas as swim lanes. You look at your different steps in your development ways of working. You see all those stickies. They are features. Maybe you can't see it so well, but there's a number of stickies, more than 100 of them. Those are the features that we work on and that we deliver. And you see those pink little stickers. Those are features that are blocked. That's not good. You don't want to have blocked features, because that means you will have delays later on. So this is like a leading indicator of a lagging delay for that feature. And when you, at least once a week, go through this, you start with the things that you want done. You start at that end of the board, because you want to complete things. And what normally happens, at least in big companies and small companies that I worked, you want to start things. You want to start, you push more and more things in, and you never get things out. So this is a way of seeing that it's full. We can't put in more stuff, because then we won't get stuff out. So, see the status at a glance and work together to get out of the block state in order to deliver faster. So, principles and mindset over practices. So Agile is a mindset, as is DevOps, as is Lean. But in the case of Agile, you have a number of values, 4 to be precise, 12 principles that sort of define what we mean by Agile. Then there are an unlimited number of practices, and you can bundle them together to call them Scrum or XP, but I'd rather say that it's important to make it your own. You define your custom practices that you need in your context, in your company, or even in your team in some instances. But it's good to sort of have something to align and be coherent on. And sometimes people in the US talk about you learn the game, you play the game, and then you redefine the game. So of course you start by learning, the rules of Scrum and the rules of Kanban, and you play that game and you work on it. But when you've mastered it and got to the principles and the mindset, then you can come up with new things. And that's really, really important. So avoid copying Spotify, avoid copying Netflix, be inspired by all means, of course. But then think for yourselves and try things out for yourselves. Super important. Because the world is changing. The rate of change will never be slower than today. And if you get stuck in a framework or stuck in someone else's model, well, you might be stuck forever if you're not careful. So, that was the first mental leap. Moving on to the second mental leap, resource efficiency to flow efficiency. So this is something that you may have experienced. So, the lady in silo number 2 is ready, done with her task. And the gentleman in silo 4 is very busy. And since they work in silos, they don't know. So the lady in silo 2 doesn't know that she could potentially help the gentleman in silo 4 to get his stuff done. So in this case, everyone is 100% occupied. They're working 100% or even more, including overtime. They are not optimizing for the overall business. They're sub-optimizing for their own little part. And that's not good because you will get delays and you will get quality issues because you're not talking to each other. And that will mean that customers are not happy. So this business fanaticism that many companies struggle with is not good for business. So business, being busy, being occupied 100% of the time is not good for business. So this gentleman, Niklas Modig, he wrote a book called This is Lean, and he was trying to answer the question, what is lean really? And his point is that it's about efficiency. So how do we get more efficient in what we do? And his answer is that it's 2 kinds of efficiencies. It's resource efficiency, utilizing people or equipment to the largest possible extent. Whereas flow efficiency is delivering value to customer as quickly as possible. So resource efficiency is sort of an internal thing about cost, whereas flow efficiency is an external, customer-focused thing about value. And of course, once again, it's not binary, it's not either or, it's, you can have both. And just to give you 2 examples. So high resource efficiency, that would be like a steel mill. You have very expensive equipment and you want to keep it busy all the time. On the other hand, the emergency services, there it's a matter of life and death that you sort of answer quickly and you have short response times because otherwise people will die. So, anyone working with DevOps in the room? Yeah, good. That's the theme of the conference, sort of. So what's the maximum utilization you would run a server at? Anyone dares to speak up? 60, that's good. Many people go up to 80, but I think 60 is very conservative, and I love that answer. And why do you keep it at 60? Exactly. So those internal queues will mean that you get delays, right? Your responses will start to get delayed, or you might even crash the server, right, if you overload it too much. And why do we forget about this in our processes? So in our products, it's obvious we don't overload them. We load them to 60%. But think about how we do with people in our ways of working. 100% or 110%, that's good. And then think about all those people interacting. That's the reason why we have delays. We're overutilizing people in many instances. So what Niklas is saying is that it's not either or, you should try to do both, but let's start with the flow efficiency. Let's start to optimize for response times. Then you can move in to be more efficient with your resources. Otherwise, you will end up in this resource utilization trap where people are very much utilized and your response times go haywire and your quality goes down the drain. So this thing about flow efficiency in product and process. So how do we work with this in this large telecom company called Ericsson? Because how did we explain this to our engineers and to our managers and to program managers so they could take more balanced actions and decisions? So, flows and traffic, sort of flows and queues in traffic, this is like a very utilized road. It's 100% utilized, and we call that a parking lot. Because the speed is 0. That's not the good way to run a highway, right? But it's very much utilized, 100% utilized, but you don't get any flow whatsoever. And we looked into the Toyota production system, the Swedish healthcare system, and the Scania production system even, to get inspiration. But you know, our engineers, they said, well, we're not Scania, we're not Toyota, we're not the Swedish healthcare system, and we're definitely not a highway. We're knowledge workers, and we're proud of that. So our context is so special, so this is not relevant for us. So we had to think about a way to get out of the manufacturing, healthcare, highway thing, and to come up with stories that resonated with our people. That was the trick. And fortunately, I happened to be in Copenhagen once again. I took a class by the Don of Flow, Don Reinerson, and he asked me and a colleague of mine who was taking his class based on this fantastic book, you already know this stuff, Eriksson. You use it in your products every single day. So his point was that in a telecom product, you have flow of packets. And you handle, you know, extreme variability with all kinds of cool algorithms in the product. And his point was just transform all that experience, all those cool algorithms, into your processes, into your ways of working. So you can reuse what you already know. You don't need to read the book. You can just reuse all your experiences in building the product. So that was the kind of storytelling that we started using. Storytelling about flow. You know, this is how our product works. We have a lot of arrivals, very variable. We have admission control. We have congestion control. We have all kinds of smart algorithms to handle all that variability and get throughput, get short latency, short response times. I mean, that's the reason why all of us can use all those Instagrams and Twitter and Facebook and stuff. Billions of people, trillions of packets, all kinds of cool algorithms to just optimize the throughput and the latency. So that analogy, using that in our ways of working, was really, really cool, actually. Final part of this leap, stole this from Donella Meadows, a fantastic systems thinker. So how do we improve? How do we make that ball roll? Of course, we can use measurements and tools, structures, processes, purpose, mission, paradigms, or mindset and principles, and they all have different leverage. So this is physics. So where you put your leverage points, and different leverage points will give you different impacts. And of course, it's not either or. You should do all of these things, but you get more leverage by going from resource efficiency to flow efficiency, rather than changing a few measurements or a few tools here and there. So we should do work all across this lever to get the true leverage, and think about different ways that we can make this change and improvement happen. Okay, final leap. Scattered experiences, continuous innovation. And this is a car in Lego. It's a Ferrari, and sometimes, you know, in Lean and Agile, you have all these fancy words. It's Kaizen, and it's inspect and adapt, and it's continuous improvements. And what we were struggling with was that some people thought, well, this is only for Japanese companies. This can never be done, you know, in China or in Poland or in Sweden. This is specifically for Toyota or Honda, or pick your favorite Japanese company. So we wanted to find some other stories and some other sort of cultures that people could relate to even more. And then we found this brilliant quote. I mean, the best Ferrari we have ever produced is always the next one. That's continuous improvement, right? So the best is yet to come. Or you can take a sports analogy. Roger Federer, the fantastic tennis player, he's, you know, the next backhand is always his best backhand. So then he just continues and gets better and better and better. Now at 36, 37, he still wins big tournaments. So you want to find those stories that people can relate to, rather than having words that could potentially make people confused and even feel outside. as outsiders. So, this innovation. Anyone dares to take a shot? Yes? So, thinking outside the box. Yeah, sure. Agree on that? In Ericsson, it was very much thinking outside of the box in the product space. So we wanted to have patents. That was the definition of innovation. Huge number of patents, then you're very innovative, and it's all only in the product space. I would argue that innovation is value from ideas. So you need to have ideas. Then you need to prove that they have value. You need to do prototyping. You need to do experiments or trials or demos to show that they have value. And then it can be, it can be products, it could be services, it could be ways of working, it could be leadership, it could be finance, it could be anything as long as it has some value. It can even be learning, because learning has value long term. So one thing that we did was sort of to plan for innovation in order to grow our capability, to get better over time. We said that well, of course, inspired by Google and other companies, 3M comes to mind as well. Let's save 30% for innovation in the wide sense. Experiments, trials, learning days, prototypes, all those things. So planning, once again, with less than 100% utilization, that creates an environment for innovation, because time and space are important. And we put in things like learning days, a full day every sprint where we could have like an internal conference, or we can try out all the cool prototypes and stuff that we wanted. So that's one thing. Now I'm trying to get the next picture, and there it is. So continuous innovation towards the vision, that's also extremely important. So we had this better, faster, shorter, happier, more innovative. And then we had a challenge, which is a near-term thing that we did the coming quarter. And here's like delivery to a live commercial network every sprint. New functionality, better quality, and this was not with Swisscom, it was with T-Mobile in the US. And we wanted to have a live network. So we started out in the desert in Nevada, but that was too easy. So after building some trust, we moved to the Strip in Las Vegas, where it was a bit more data traffic when people were not gambling. I'm running out of time, I see, so I want to leave some time for Q&A. One thing that we were almost starting to try was this innovation operating system, where we looked at, okay, what were the patterns that we saw when we were innovative, primarily in the product space? What behaviors, what capabilities, what structures and processes did we have? So I won't go into details. I mean, if you're interested, grab me after the session or read the write-up. There's a write-up where I explain this more in detail. So I think I stop here and just leave you with a challenging question. What will your next mental leap with? And maybe we have time for one question.